Did you know that one person dies every 33 seconds in the United States due to cardiovascular disease? So, what exactly is cardiovascular disease? It's basically any group of disorders that is related to the heart and blood vessels. CVD is a huge problem across the world and is known as the leading cause of death globally. About 17.9 million people died from cardiovascular disease in just 2019. This represents a staggering 32% of global deaths. And this can really look anything like heart disease, heart failure, heart attacks, strokes, arrhythmias, and many other very serious conditions. So, some common risk factors for CVD include obesity, unhealthy dietary patterns, and these are often connected, tobacco use, a lack of exercise, pollution, and alcohol use. And this kind of led me to wonder, how can we lead healthier lives? What types of foods or diets can help mitigate this problem? And how can we fuel for a better life? And this helped me discover my research question: how can the Mediterranean diet help reduce the risk of developing cardiovascular disease? So, what really is the Mediterranean diet? We know that it emphasizes consuming plant based foods rich in healthy fats, limiting meat consumption, consuming more fish, and eating unprocessed foods. It also involves consuming fruits, vegetables, beans, whole grains, nuts and seeds, olive oil, and seasonings with herbs and spices. And in the 1960s, a study was conducted that determined that Mediterranean countries reported lower rates of cardiovascular disease compared to that of the United States and Northern Europe. And it also reduces the risk of chronic diseases such as heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. So, what exactly are the components of the Mediterranean diet? It emphasizes eating lots of fruits and vegetables because they provide essential vitamins, minerals, and fiber to the diet. Vegetables can also contain vitamin A, which is a great antioxidant for the body, which helps reduce inflammation. In 2019, about 12.3% and 10% of surveyed adults met fruit and vegetable intake recommendations. This is staggeringly low. This diet also focuses on eating whole foods, meaning foods that are real and unprocessed. About 73% of the US food supply are ultra processed, contributing to our chronic disease epidemic, especially cardiovascular diseases. Moving on to protein, this diet emphasizes consuming more fish and lean protein rather than red meat. Due to the high levels of saturated fat that's found in red meat, its consumption has been linked to cardiovascular disease. However, these fatty fish are filled with great and healthy omega 3s, which help promote better heart health and longevity. So, moving on to healthy fats, these omega 3 fatty acids have been proven to dilate blood vessels, discourage blood clotting, decrease blood pressure, and also just reduce overall inflammation in the body. And this kind of ties in with the nuts and seeds as well, because they're also these great sources of healthy fats and omega 3s. So, the overall recommendation for this diet would be that Americans should incorporate more omega 3 fatty acids into their day to day meals, including fish, walnuts, flax seeds, leafy green vegetables, soybeans, and olive oil, which are all very much components of the Mediterranean diet. So, how does this diet help with cardiovascular disease? Firstly, it helps lower high blood pressure and cholesterol levels. So, consuming unsaturated fats that are derived from plant sources helps with lowering overall levels of cholesterol, especially the LDL, which is the bad cholesterol. It also reduces inflammation in your body, so consuming these omega 3 fatty acids can help lower the risk of stroke and heart failure. And it replaces saturated fat with these polyunsaturated fats, and this can help lower the risk of cardiovascular disease and death. So, the first study that I analyzed was called Virgin Olive Oil Rich in Phenolic Compounds Modulates the Expression of Atherosclerosis Related Genes in Vascular Endothelium. So, this aimed to discover the effects of consuming extra virgin olive oil that is full of these phenolic compounds, which are basically just these natural chemicals that are found in plants, especially in like olive oil, on the vascular endothelium. So, to do this, a study was conducted that treated human umbilical vein endothelial cells with two types of human blood. One was blood that was taken during a fasting state, and the other was blood that was taken right after someone consumed a breakfast full of extra virgin olive oil with a high or low concentration of phenolic compounds. So, after conducting this study, they came up with these two tables, which are basically showing the gene expressions in the human umbilical vein endothelial cells after being treated with each blood. It can be seen that the treatment with blood obtained after the consumption of a high phenol olive oil based breakfast decreased the expression of inflammatory and oxidative stress related genes. And it can be concluded from this experiment that the consumption of a diet that's rich in phenolic compounds can help protect blood vessels and early signs of heart disease. Um, And obviously, this displays that the components of olive oil in the Mediterranean diet is very significant in producing anti inflammatory effects, which helps to reduce the risk of developing cardiovascular disease. The second study that I looked at was called The Molecular and Metabolic Effects of Extra Virgin Olive Oil on the Cardiovascular Gene Structure in Rodents. So, this study aimed to analyze the effects of extra virgin olive oil and explore the biochemical and metabolic processes and responses to the consumption of extra virgin olive oil. So, to find this information, they conducted an animal study on male mice. They fed them one of two diets for 16 weeks. The first diet was high in saturated fats, and the other contained the same number of calories, but instead was high in the consumption of extra virgin olive oil with lots of healthy plant compounds instead of saturated fats. The study also examined how the mice's bodies handled sugar and looked closer into their metabolism and blood, studying various gene activities and how their bodies produce energy in the liver and the heart. So, these tables demonstrate that the consumption of extra virgin olive oil does help create more mitochondria, which is what correlated to decreased inflammation in the body, which helps lower one's risk of developing CVD. And it can be concluded that extra virgin olive oil does not cause weight gain in mice, and it has great anti inflammatory effects that are great for the overall heart health of these mice. And since the med diet is rich in these phenolic compounds that are present in extra virgin olive oil, this diet further supports heart health and longevity based on these findings. For the third experiment, it was called Primary Prevention of Cardiovascular Disease with a Mediterranean Diet Supplemented with Extra Virgin Olive Oil or Nuts. So, this study was aimed to discover the correlation between adherence to the Mediterranean diet and risk of developing cardiovascular disease. It basically assigned 7,447 participants ages 55 to 80 years old who were at high risk for CVD but didn't currently have it. And each member of the group was assigned one of three diets. The first was a Mediterranean diet supplemented with extra virgin olive oil. The second was a Mediterranean diet supplemented with mixed nuts. The final diet and control group was simply just advised to reduce their intake of dietary fat overall. And each person received quarterly educational sessions. And the end goal of this experiment was just to see if a cardiovascular event were to occur. So here are the two tables that kind of show the findings that they had. So table A displays the different diets and their incidence rates for various cardiovascular events. And table B shows the total mortality rate for each group. And it can be concluded from the study that there were about 96 cardiovascular events in the group assigned the Mediterranean diet with extra virgin olive oil. There were 83 events in the group that was assigned to a Mediterranean diet with nuts. There were 109 in the control group. And this kind of goes to show that the incidence of CVD was lower for the group that was consuming the Mediterranean diet than the control group, further showing how this diet can help contribute to overall heart health and reducing the risk of developing CVD. So, knowing all of this, how can an average American incorporate this food into their diet? Here are some really easy things that people can do to slowly start implementing this into their lives. So, the first recommendation is consuming more whole grains. Instead of white bread, maybe eating whole white bread, consuming more fruits and vegetables. So, eating your colors, eating more leafy greens like kale, spinach, arugula, and collard greens, blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, consuming more seafood like fatty fish that are rich in omega 3s like salmon, mackerel, and herring. You should be wary, however, of larger fish because they tend to have higher mercury levels. Reducing the consumption of red or processed meats. So, eating more lean meats is definitely an easier fix, like replacing ground beef with ground turkey. And replacing saturated fat foods with unsaturated fats, such as avocados, nuts, and olive oil, is also a great way to do this. So here are some quick and healthy recipe ideas that you can incorporate as well if you're looking for inspiration. So the first one's chicken piccata, which is super simple. It's just chicken, olive oil, garlic, capers, lemon juice, chicken broth, and parsley. This is simple and easy and can be paired with your favorite vegetable. The second one is a grilled salmon salad, which is great for the summertime. It's salmon, lettuce, any vegetable of your choice with a super easy dressing of lemon juice, olive oil, and Dijon mustard. This is full of flavor, packed with protein, and has tons of vegetables in it. The third choice would be stuffed peppers. These are super delicious. They're just bell peppers with brown rice or quinoa, chickpeas, tomatoes, onions, garlic, feta cheese, olives, oregano, and olive oil. Um, and then the last one is just a green juice. And this can be honestly whatever you want it to be as long as it's just packed with these vegetables. Trying to increase that intake of vegetables is so important. So eating things like maybe green apples, celery, kale, ginger, or parsley in a green juice would be really good for you. So, thank you so much for listening and enjoy your healthy life.